Welcome to Season 4, Episode 8 of the Me and ADHD podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking to ADHD coach and neurodiversity trainer Caitlin Whitmore about what it's been like being diagnosed later on in life with ADHD. So, welcome to the show, Caitlin.
Hi, it's really good to be here.
Yeah, really good to have you here. Thanks for spending a bit of time to sort of go over your story, really, and let us know what it's been like.
hmm
So, so when were you diagnosed then? How old were you?
I was
26.
26.
Okay.
So, yeah, never reveal a lady's age, but that was 3 years ago. So, yeah, about 3 years ago, I was diagnosed.
Okay. So what was
Mm.
life, what was life even? What was life like for you prior to the diagnosis?
If you'd have asked me then, I'd have said, fine, everything's great, I'm all good. Now, reflecting back on it, I can actually see that things weren't fine. I did really well in school and well at university, and I think that's why I would have said it's going fine. I've got a degree and doing well, but underneath all that, I was actually struggling more than I let on, I think. I was very I was burning out all the time, going through constant cycles of burnout, struggling to being very all or nothing, doing stuff like at like 110% for a while, and then going to like 0% for a while because I would completely crash out. Um, and yeah, really like heightened emotions sometimes. And I never really kind of linked this stuff to ADHD, and I would have said things were fine, but yeah, reflecting on it, I don't think they were fine.
That's the thing. When you're diagnosed later on in life, and then you either get medication, you put strategies in place, and things get sort of better for you, and you understand what's going on. You realise that before was normal for you. It was just normal
Mm.
life. Like, everyone struggles this way, everyone goes through this is just normal, get on and live your life kind of thing. But it's not until you learn about it all and understand everything that you realize actually that's not how it should be.
Yeah,
Um,
and I never realized I could have the quality of life that I've got now. I didn't think I'd ever be able to have that because I thought what I had before was a good quality of life, but it definitely wasn't.
yeah. So when you do look back, you can when you put all the pieces together, you can
Mm.
it tells a tale. You can see actually, yeah, that is something I struggled with. I put a name on it. It was a wrong name or a reason for this, and it was because you're just trying to make sense of normal life, I guess.
Yeah, and some of the traits that I had that I now know were ADHD was sort of like a running joke with like friends and family. Like, oh, Caitlin's just really impulsive. She'll go and book a holiday and disappear next week, and she'll go and do this. And it was, yes, sometimes my impulsivity was great. Like, it was good fun sometimes, but sometimes it was not great. And things like that were just like a running joke, or, people used to say, oh, you're just such a procrastinator. And now I realise that was me struggling with my ADHD, struggling to start tasks because I was struggling with that getting started part. But it was like just like a running joke. That's how I was.
You mentioned people see they talk about your procrastination and your impulsivity. Was was there ever ADHD on the radar for you? Did anyone sort of talk about ADHD? Is that something that ever cropped up earlier on?
Not as far as I can remember. I mean, it was never talked about really like super openly. As far as I was aware, like I didn't even like thinking back. I don't think I knew anyone with ADHD, so I don't think I'd have ever connected the dots anyway. I think if I'd have met other people with ADHD and seen myself in them, I'd have been able to spot it. But like within like family and friends and stuff, like no one ever mentioned it, and it was when I was working at a school as a teacher, and the SEN coordinator just said to me one day, "You've got ADHD, haven't you?" And I was like, no, I don't think so. And she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And it was like that moment was what sparked it for me because I was like, what does she mean? Where's she got this from? And that's where I was like, I need to find out more about this. And yeah, but before that, no one had ever mentioned it. No one really, yeah, it didn't come up.
I think because a lot of the time it wasn't talked about a lot. I mean,
Mm,
gained a lot of traction now, but it wasn't talked a lot. Um, just in social sort of circles, it was
yeah.
just the same as depression and things like that. We just didn't talk about it, and if we didn't know much
Mm,
about it and we couldn't put a name on it, and real reasons behind how we feel, felt, or what we're going through, again, that's something that stopped us from talking about it. Because what do you say? Um,
yeah.
but it changes when you get the answers. So
Yeah.
so that was your kind of your
And
tipping
I think,
point. Someone in that work was saying,
mm,
"Oh, you're ADHD." Am I? Okay.
yeah.
Did you find you didn't start doing a lot of research about it?
Oh yeah, like I definitely hyper focused on it, like massively. Like it was around the same sort of time that ADHD was coming to the forefront a little bit more on social media. So once I kind of knew the key word to look for, it kind of opened the doors to all this information online that was there that I just didn't, hadn't come up in my algorithm. And so then I came across stuff online and I was looking and I must have researched so much. Um to kind of figure out whether I did have ADHD or not, um, and then went to get diagnosed and things from there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is by the time people go for their assessment or put in for an assessment, um, two things have either happened really. One, you can't cope and you are struggling so much,
Mm,
and or the second one would be you do a lot of research. It's never really a case of, oh, someone says I might be ADHD. I'm going to go book for an assessment. That's not how it
mm,
is. You do a huge deep dive and try to work things out and see if things fit. And but not the time you're right. Sometimes you're wrong. I went for an autism assessment. I did the online things, and yes, I was
mm,
very autistic apparently.
mm.
And so I went for that as well. And they said no, but there's a lot of ADHD traits. So it's not as if everyone gets a diagnosis um, when you put in for it. But a lot of time passes by, um, especially when you're struggling, because you kind of have to try and get to a point and know why you want to go for an ADHD assessment. Um,
Mm.
you might have actually gone for lots of other assessments as well, but it's a big long process. I mean, how was that process for you? Did you NHS do the referral? What long waiting list? Private? What happened?
Yeah, so I just went through the NHS because even through all my research, I don't recall ever, unless I just missed that part, I don't ever recall there being another way. So I just kind of went down the standard, go to the doctors. They said it'll be it'll be a while before you get in. Someone gets in touch with you to then talk about an assessment, and it was 2 years from going to the doctors initially, and then and then getting that assessment, um, and in that 2 years, like that's where things kind of unraveled a little bit. So I burnt out so bad at my teaching job. So I've got physical health conditions as well, and I think they linked a lot. Like I could never really tell when I was burning out, so that would then affect me physically, and it was this constant cycle that then got to a point where it was just I was so poorly, I was so overwhelmed, and I left my job and just felt a bit lost and didn't really know what to do next and things. And so that gap, that 2 year gap, if it was shorter, like I don't like to think in ifs and what ifs, but if it was shorter, would things have been different? Maybe. But ultimately, I'm where I'm at now and I'm really happy with it. So I don't wish I could change anything. But for a lot of people, like that massive gap of like however many years, like it was 2 years, but I know in some places it's more now. Like a lot can happen in that time. And yeah, it's far too long.
Yeah, yeah. As late diagnosed, Oxfordshire, where I live, there isn't a waiting list anymore. They've paused it 2 years ago. So as an
Wow.
adult, you can't get um, an assessment, on the
Wow.
NHS in that way. Right to choose,
Mm.
okay, but straight to the NHS, no. So yeah, okay.
Mm.
So you had the assessment, you got the diagnosis. How do you feel about the diagnosis? I know a lot of people feel different
It
ways
was,
about it, and they take it
yeah.
different ways. But what about you?
It was really weird because it was online, and I don't know what I was expecting, but we had the assessment, and I can't remember how long it was. I want to say like an hour and a half, 2 hours. It was pretty long, online. And at the end, she just was like, "Yep, you've defo got ADHD." And I don't think I was expecting an answer right then and there. So I don't think I was quite prepared for that part. I thought I'd go away and I'd get an email or a letter in time to say whether I had a diagnosis or not. So I think it kind of not took me by surprise, because at this point I was like, if I haven't got ADHD, I don't like, I'll be so shocked because I was 99% sure like I definitely have got ADHD, but I just don't think I was expecting to get that answer right then and there. So I remember it like so vividly, like sitting on my sofa, logging off after this assessment, and just kind of sitting there like, what do I do with this? What do I do now? Like, I didn't really know what to do. I was like, do I tell people? Like, do I ring everyone and be like, hey, guess what? Or do I just not tell any? I literally just didn't know what to do with it for a start. And then I think as I started to process it, there was that real mix of emotions. A big one was definitely like that imposter syndrome. I was like, thinking, what if I've made it up? What if I've exaggerated too much? And it's weird how common that is. A
Yeah,
lot of ADHDers have a very similar experience where they feel like they've made it up, and exaggerated, or they feel like they shouldn't have got a diagnosis even though they did feel like it was accurate. And that's a bit of a roller coaster to navigate in itself, because you don't trust yourself in that sense, even though this qualified professional has said, I am sure you've got ADHD based on everything we've done, you still question yourself.
yeah. Like you said, a lot of people do go through that. I mean, I'm nearly 3 years down the line, and I get times when I go through that as well.
Mm.
I try to think as best as I can, very logically about it. About these are very qualified people, and I remember the assessment process I went through. It was very in depth, and I was really surprised
Mm.
how in depth it was. So I think about that, and I think about how it all made sense. Um, my whole life made sense. There wasn't anything about what they told me and what they said and what was in the report that didn't make sense.
Mm.
Therefore, it must be correct. That's the way I process it for myself. Once I've gone through, down that route of, am I? But and the medication, I'm on medication, and it helps, and it wouldn't help
Mm.
how it is if I wasn't ADHD. So
Yeah.
okay, so you got your diagnosis. There's obviously things going around in your mind about everything, but what was your post diagnosis care like? So your ADHD, there you go, awesome. What what came next?
Well, they said, we'll refer you to your kind of local area, because the NHS gave my case, they got some funding, and they essentially gave it to a right to choose provider. So that was how it came about. And then they gave it back to my local area, my local NHS, and they said the adult ADHD clinic will be in touch. Went in for that initial meeting, and I don't really know what I expected, but we sat down, and then she said, "Do you want medication?" And I wasn't sure at this point because I really didn't know if I did, and so I said that. I said, "I don't know if I do," and she said, "Well, it's either medication or we discharge you." And that blew my mind, because I went in there thinking, I'm going to see if there's any kind of therapy, or I mean, at this point I didn't know anything about coaching, so I wouldn't have known to ask for that, but I was expecting some kind of something that wasn't medication, some kind of support that I could access if I didn't want medication, or instead of, or as well as. And yeah, it was non-existent. It was medication or nothing. And yeah, I went down the road of medication because I was so scared to be discharged. I thought, I've waited 2 years. I can't be discharged, like, and lose any potential support I might have. So I did go down the route of medication, but I almost feel like I was a little bit strong armed into it, because it was either medication or nothing, and I really didn't want nothing.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and I tried loads of different medications, and I think just personally for me, the side effects, I couldn't stand them on most medications. And then fast forward to kind of what I do now, I've learnt a lot, and I have medication as a backup more than a front line of that I need. But in that moment when I got diagnosed and I went for that first appointment, yeah, it was literally just medication or nothing, which medication is very helpful, but it's nice, there's a lot of people that can't have medication for different medical
Yeah.
reasons. There's people that choose not to, and there's nothing for those people.
And that's a shame. And like I say, it's a big
Mm,
surprise because are
mm,
things. There are things that are
yeah.
out there, and and those things we need to do. It's not as if
Mm,
you go on medication and that's it. Medication isn't a cure. Medication,
mm,
in many cases, helps quite a lot, but it doesn't rock your world. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You need other things to help you get through and live your best life, really. Um,
Mm,
because just relying on one thing is not ever going to be um, the best way. But I find I spoke to a lot of people, and I'm just kind of thinking now that um, I don't think anyone that I spoke to has said their aftercare has been great. And
yeah.
and I've talked to quite a few people and companies as well. It seems to be a system wide thing. No one's automatically doing it. There are things that they will offer that they can do at that clinic or organization, but it's not a part of the assessment and diagnosis process.
Mm,
It's if you want it, it's an extra payment, or you have to go, join a different queue, or you have to, you know what I mean? You're gonna have to ask for it.
yeah.
It's not something that is right. We can do this for you. We can do that for you, and this would be a great way for you to start understand. No, it's none of that, and we have to do a lot of the researching ourselves,
Mm,
um, which is a shame, especially now because we get a lot of stick for it's not real and social media and all this kind of rubbish. But where else are we going to go? Where are we going to get the information from? It's all very well doing some research, and we do lots and lots of research, but where do we go for that research? Well, a lot of the time it's
mm,
social media because we know there's information there. We don't know how correct it
yeah.
is, but we know there's information there, so we go through that and deep dive through that, and hopefully at some point we end up getting to some quality websites and quality information. But yeah, it is a shame you're not really told about therapy, or the different types of therapy, the coaching, the lifestyle changes you can have put in place, about the eating and the nutritional aspect, because sometimes we forget to eat, and sometimes we
Mm,
binge eat, and there's a lot of things that can be done, that need to be done, and all these little strategies you can put in place to help you function. Um, so I wish that changes. I wish that will be right. You're diagnosed. This is what it is. Now this is what we can do for you. We can book you your next session, which is all included in whatever be it you paid or it's through the NHS. And it's I don't know, an educational meeting, and they go through what
mm,
it is and what it actually is, and what you can do to help yourself day to day. That would be great. But that's just
yeah.
it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And it 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 really should. It's the most important time, I'd argue. Like when you get diagnosed, that first period is crucial, because you you're navigating a lot, the process in the diagnosis, and you're instantly looking for answers on how do I make my life easier, like how do I manage this, and there's nothing. So that's when people will turn to things online, and it can go either way. You can find really good information out there, or you can come across a lot of misinformation. And there's and that that'll be down to almost luck in what you find and what you come across, and there should be kind of a standard structured support program available, even if it's just a very basic kind of, this is what ADHD is, because I don't think anyone really explained it to me. Like, a good job I did a lot of research, because I don't think anyone actually really explained it. This is what it is. Also, this is like how it's affecting you, because I think a lot of people go through that process of, well, what's me and what's ADHD, and like that identity crisis of like, well, I don't really know who I am now, and that's a big part of
Yeah.
it. And then the strategies you need to make your life easier and actually support yourself, all those things like that's when you need it most.
Yeah. Because those strategies that you can use to put into place to help your, I don't know, your working memory, your organizational skills,
Mm.
your, just your day to day getting to work on time kind of things. These are huge things in our lives, huge barriers, huge hurdles, but for a lot of people can be quite simple things to put into place.
Mm.
And it's a shame that we're not told that we have to go find it out ourselves. But they can make
Yeah.
a massive difference.
Yeah.
Even when sometimes when the waiting list for medication can be quite a while.
Mm.
But why? Okay, so it's going to be 9 months before you get seen about medication. But in that time, tell us what I can do to help myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
because if I can help myself, if I can do all these, and it really works for me in my situation, maybe I don't need medication. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, I mean, I went on medication because I was at that point. In my knowledge, I was, well, medication will work, and I'm going to do medication. Um, but it works, but it's not brilliant. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
I found with social media. You get the polar opposites. You get one. I've taken a pill, my first pill ever, which is really weird. On when you're on your titration, your first ever pill, they start you really really low, and usually nothing happens. But so many people are like, within half an hour, my mind is so clear. I can do. I'm like, okay, right, manage my expectations because, yeah, that didn't happen. Um, and even now, I'm on the highest dose I can go on the medication I'm on, and it helps. Okay, it helps. I can read and remember what I'm reading. Um, my working memory is better, and I don't get so overwhelmed so quickly as I was doing. Um, so that is brilliant. Side
Yeah.
effects, yeah, okay. Um, but what I need it for, what it's working for, yeah, I'll put up with the side effects that I've got. Okay, as long as the doctors and the clinicians are okay. Uh, yeah, if all it was giving me was the ability to read a bit better, and that's it,
Mm.
put things in place. Yeah, to be fair, it's allowed me to put extra things in place. I had some things in place before, um, but without those strategies, I'd be lost. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, they often go hand in hand, don't they? There's a place for both medication and strategies, and some people will have medication, some people won't. But the strategies that you can put in place, like you said before, like some of them are very simple, but with ADHD, what we struggle with is implementation, like actually, reading something and going, that'll work for me. I'm going to do that. Like, that's the part we struggle
yeah.
with. One, because there's so many strategies out there, we then get overwhelmed. We're like, I don't even know where to start, so I'm not going to do anything. And two, it's that kind of following through and like finding what works for you. That can be really hard as well. So if you have that support, someone to help you figure that part out and go, okay, well, what, that's not working because, and this might be better. Like, having that bit of support makes like the world of difference to just saying, go and Google some strategies and then stick some in place and see what happens. And you might find some that work, but it is a lot more difficult to just do that on your own, consume that information, and then turn it into something practical.
Absolutely.
That's the gap.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll take you a lot longer to get there. It'll take you longer to fine tune things, if you do fine tune things,
Mm,
because it's very easy to go, okay, that doesn't work. I'm just going to go, no, I'll try something different instead. Whereas
yeah.
a little tweak of that strategy could make all the difference. But if you've got someone
Mm,
there to help you through it, things would be a lot easier, a lot quicker. So,
yeah.
so I mean, I know where you are now, but how did the knowledge, when you did doing all the research, you got your diagnosis, and you got a better understanding of ADHD? I mean, how did that affect your quality of life? I mean, what changed for you?
I think it took a while because initially it was just so much overwhelm that it was so overwhelming that I stopped wanting to read anything about ADHD at one point. But then when I really started to understand ADHD, started to learn about it, it it really, I think the biggest difference for me was the self-compassion that I give myself now, like the grace to just not be perfect. And things like habits, like I used to expect that I had to go to the gym 5 times a week to be great, and now if I even go once, I'm like, okay, fair play, I went once more than last week. And I give myself compassion and I allow myself to do things in a way that I never would before, so I don't look at my life through that standard like neurotypical lens. I look at my life in a completely different way. And the standards I set myself, like I still set myself very high standards, but like they're very flexible. And I know kind of what works for me, what doesn't. Like I work with my natural energy now. Like I don't have clients first thing at 9 a.m. in the morning because I need a minute to get into my day, and I can't give them 100%. But I'll have clients in the evening because I am buzzing with energy in the evening sometimes. So, and before I'd have been like, no, you must start at 9 o'clock. And I think now, yeah, it's not doing things in a neurotypical way, doing things in whatever way works for me, and me alone, and also giving myself grace when things don't go 100% to plan, and when things aren't perfect. That I'm okay with that now.
And that's huge, because that at
Yeah.
times can be the difference between being okay and suffering a lot with anxiety or depression or
Mm.
whatever. Having that kind of giving yourself some grace and some self understanding and self awareness, um, can change your life really, for the better.
Yeah.
It's beforehand, you because you don't know what's going on, and all you see is what other people can do. So you think you should be able to do that as well, just as easy as they do it, and at the
Mm.
times that they do it, and as often as they do it. Um, and for a lot of us, that's not how it is. Um, but when you don't feel that there's an issue, um, that can be helped and supported, you just go along with it. That's life. This is how it is. This is normal. I'm just not very good. I'm not
Mm.
good at learning. I'm not good at doing. I'm not good at completing things. I'm not good at sleeping. I'm not good at eating. That, as well as people telling you and making you feel that you're not good enough at doing all these things that other people are doing, so therefore you should be able to do, um, it plays a toll,
Mm.
on who you are as a person and your psyche, your self worth. But learning about it, yeah, it can really help you just say, hey, well, actually, I'm going to cut myself some slack now, because I
Yeah.
know it's not, a failure on my behalf. It's not, I don't have a character flaw. I'm not a lazy person. I'm not a thick, stupid person, which you felt before, because people can make you feel that way. For a lot of people, not everyone, because everything's a little bit different. Um, so having that knowledge is makes a huge difference for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
It does.
what started to change then? So what started to change when everything, that knowledge was there, and you gave yourself some a bit of a hug when you needed to give yourself a hug. How did life change for you?
Um, I don't really think anything changed until until really I started becoming a coach myself, weirdly. So I think sometimes people think that when you become a coach, you've got your life figured out. It wasn't really like that. I just wanted to help people with ADHD. So I left teaching. I went back to uni and did a master's in psychological research, but I did all my research on ADHD because I was like, I want to help people with ADHD, but I don't know how. Like, I don't know the best way to help people. So I did I did all this research, and it was through interviews that I did in my research that I interviewed a lady actually that she said, I've had ADHD coaching and it's changed my life. And I was like, what's this coaching thing? Like, what is it? And yeah, she told me all about it, and I learned about it, and then I started getting training to be a coach myself. And it was from that, it was learning a lot more, not just on the face of it, like what is ADHD, but like learning how it feels being in a room with other people with ADHD that talk about their experiences that you go, oh, ooh, me too. Learning strategies and how you personalize them for the individual. I then started to apply these strategies to my life, and that's where I think a lot of the self compassion came from, because I learned about not just, I didn't just Google a strategy and be like that should work. I learned about strategies for the individual, of taking an individualized approach, and I started to do that with myself because I'm like, well, this might not work for me, but that's fine, I'll tweak it. And then that self-compassion developed. I learned a lot of strategies. I always would kind of implement strategies in my own life before ever kind of suggesting strategies to clients. And then when I became a coach, it almost the opposite happened as well, because clients will come up with strategies, like they'll think, they'll come up with stuff, they'll be like, this is a great idea, what do you think? And I'm like, I've never come across that, but that's a fantastic idea. And they'll give me ideas, and then I'll implement new strategies. So I always think I'm constantly learning and developing and tweaking, and I don't think I don't have the expectation anymore that life should be 100% perfect all the time. I used to think like I had to have a handle on everything all the time to be successful and to be happy. But I have that self compassion now where I'm like, oh, I haven't exercised for a few weeks, but I've got strategies where I like check in on myself, and then I reset these things. So I think it took a lot of time. There was no magic light bulb, oh, it's clicked moment. But over like the few years, the strategies have got better and better. The self compassion has grown, connecting with a lot of people with ADHD who get it. So then I'm like, I feel validated. I'm again more self compassion from that. I think all those things have added up over time to really make the difference in where I'm at now compared to where I was before.
Yeah, no, that's good. I find that with the um, if you want to call it the hidden disabilities, the things that are going on in our heads, and internally, then they're not talked about enough. They're not thought about enough, in regards to what to do about it. Externally,
Mm.
if you've got a bad knee or a bad hip, and you're hobbling about because of the pain, everyone can see you're hobbling about, and everyone understands that you've got a painful hip. No wonder you can't walk, you know, very well. Um, but it's not until you start putting things into place, like maybe I'll use a walking stick or a crutch or wheelchair, do the exercises the physio gave me, eat better, lose a little bit of weight, um, do swimming, whatever it is, that things can start to feel a little bit better. You can do a little
Mm.
bit more, and everybody's okay with that because they can see that you've got, this bad hip, and you've been hobbling, and they can say, oh, you're not hobbling as much as you were. What have you done to help? And it all seems to be very normal that way. But when other people can't see it, it seems to them sometimes that, like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And you don't need to do that. You
Mm,
just need to do this. Make yourself a
yeah.
list.
I mean, I always use a really similar analogy. So I've got Crohn's disease, and no one questions that. Even though you can't see it, it's invisible. Like, you see it on scans and whatnot, but it's invisible to most people. But they can see the pain that I was in. No one's ever questioned that diagnosis and gone, "Are you sure it's Crohn's disease? Maybe it's just that everyone gets a tummy ache now and then." No one has ever questioned that. But when you have ADHD, people just question it. They're like, well, maybe it's everyone's got a bit of ADHD. Are you sure it's not
Mm.
just like this or this or and it's just questioned so much. And I always think, why? Like, what's the difference? Like, it's yes, you can't see it, but that person's reality is real. I was experiencing stomach cramps and all that from my Crohn's disease, but no one, apart from me physically showing that, no one could see that. And it's the same with my ADHD. Like, if I mask and hide it, that doesn't mean I'm not experiencing it, but people will question it because they there's just a mixed opinion on it. And it's, as much as the world has definitely got better and has moved forward with things like ADHD, there's still such a long way to go in terms of acceptance and real understanding. I
Yeah.
think like some people will say they understand it, but I think there's still a lot of misconceptions out
Oh,
there.
definitely, definitely. It's like, I think the social media has been great in regards to it's got millions of people talking, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
That's, we kind of needed that when, depression was kind of talked about in the news, and the suicide rates and things like that, depression, but no one was talking about it because of the stigma. And but people are talking about this, and it incorporates depression and everything as well. So that is good that the world is talking about it. The downside, it seems, that it's made everybody come out of their lane. You know,
Mm.
if they're talking about the Crohn's or something else, or they don't have an opinion, they go, "Oh, have you really? Oh, anything I can do to help?" It's all, "Are you okay?" Brilliant, because they know that you need to see, the doctor, the surgeon, or whatever it is that you've got people to go to. But with this, it just seems that everybody thinks they're an expert and they know everything
Mm.
and they
Yeah.
voice their opinion about it. It's like, what? Okay, please
Yeah.
shut up.
And then that's when exactly, and when especially when you're newly diagnosed or not diagnosed yet and starting to go through that process, and you hear comments like, well, everybody's a bit ADHD, like, and things like that, that's really difficult to hear because you're already trying to navigate this potential diagnosis and trying to understand what's ADHD, how do I separate the two, combine the two. And then people say, oh, well, everyone's got ADHD. And it can be really invalidating because then you're just like, oh, I've made it up, or everyone's got it. What am I, why am I special? And things like that. So it's what is just like a little offhand comment can actually do a lot more damage.
Absolutely. Um,
Mm.
Sometimes I think, maybe I should just say something. So, tell me about your ADHD then. Tell me about how much you're
Mm.
struggling and how long's it gone on for. What goes on in your ADHD? Tell me. And
Mm-hmm.
waiting for them to come back. Well, sometimes I just forget my keys. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, the behaviours and the symptoms of ADHD are all normal behaviours on a spectrum. So, like, everybody does lose things from time to time, but people with ADHD, those behaviours are more, more frequent, way more intense, and they actually affect that individual's daily functioning. And that's the difference.
Yeah,
So, like anything, like any physical condition, everybody gets a stomach ache from time to time, but having stomach aches 5 times a day, that's a condition. That's something that we need to look at sorting because that's really impacting your day to day life. It's the same with ADHD. we are all a bit impulsive sometimes and we all struggle to get motivated. But if that's happening every day and it's getting in the way of your job and it's getting in the way of your mental health and it's really debilitating, that's what ADHD is. That's why it's not the same thing. But the behaviors we all have, of course, but it's not the same.
Yeah, far from it, far from it. Um, but those examples you gave are spot on, because people do go through pretty much everything that we go through once or twice, or you know what I mean. I spoke to my
Mm.
wife a couple of months ago, um, and she struggled to get to sleep. There's stuff at work, lots going on in her head. She couldn't shut her head off, and it's just hard for her to get to sleep. And at that moment, I was like, okay, so that is my head every day, 24/7. Okay.
Mm.
So it's kind of like, yes, fine. There's a lot going on in your head, but that will go tomorrow. That'll be gone. But for me, that it doesn't go. Even with the
Yeah.
medication, some of it will go, but it's still there. Um, and that can affect you. Having a bad knee for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or even a month, whatever, is a pain in the bum, stops you from doing a lot of things, but it'll get better and you're all sorted. Having a bad knee chronically for 10 years and you're hobbling, that's a whole world of a different pain, you know?
Yeah.
I just wish more people got it, you know? Not
Yeah.
bad knee, but
Yeah.
understood, sorry.
Yeah. No, I get you.
um, did you find learning everything? Did you find things got a little bit harder before it got easier, or it was a case of
Yeah.
everything was just a lot better straight away?
I definitely think there was an element of just pure overwhelm, before anything got better, because it was very much like, what strategies do I put in place? What do I do first? How do I put this in place? Like all those little micro decisions that we then struggle with, and it then adds up to overwhelm. I think I sat in like a period of overwhelm for so long before I then was like, okay, I'm gonna do something about this, and then I think but then I think even that progress is not necessarily linear with ADHD. So it's not like I learned a strategy and then another strategy and life just got better in that direction. It was ups and downs. But when you zoom out of the graph, so every day might be like this, but when you zoom out of the graph, it has a general trend of going up. But even within that, it's not like every day got better. There was variation, but overall over time things significantly got better. And there were times where I had massive leaps forward in like learning things and something clicking, and I'm like, wow, that's really changed a lot. And sometimes there were small strategies that changed not a lot but made things a tiny bit easier. And I think, yeah, I forgot what your question was, but yeah, no, that was it. I would say there was an element of things just getting really overwhelming, and not being able to see like an end point where things would feel good and like where life would just feel easy and in control. I think that was so far in the future that I couldn't see that as a possibility. But then every time I got a step towards that and things were getting a bit easier, and I'm like, okay, I've really got a handle on task initiation now. Like I've got so many strategies that like 90% of the time I can start a task. Okay, that's getting better. And then I'd be like, okay, my sleep's terrible. Let's work on that next. And they did add up to eventually get me to a point where everything feels within my control pretty much most of the time.
Which is good. But there's no
Yeah.
there's no quick fix. There's no quick
No.
one one big win that'll sort out everything. There's lots of different things to focus on, and everybody's different. How people can change and adapt is different. What the struggle is could be different in what it actually is and the severity of it all as well. So it's nice. It's nice to have all these different things that you could put into place to pick from and see which one's working and tweaking it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unfortunate it can take quite a while, I guess, for a lot of people.
Yeah. It definitely takes longer as well if you're trying to do it by yourself, because There's no one helping you see what's working and what's not working. There's no one keeping you accountable, and when you fall off, getting you back on. There's a lot of element of trial and error. There's periods where you just feel so overwhelmed you don't want to try anything. So it does take a lot longer. And then when you have the support of someone each week going, okay, that didn't work, that's fine. Like, let's park that. Let's try this instead. That keeps you see a lot more gains a lot quicker when you have a bit of support just to help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if it's just, even if you've got someone there to say, oh, I see you actually coping a lot better doing this now, and you don't seem to be asking for help as much in this area. So you can feel that someone else is seeing the positive effects of what you're doing.
Mm.
It helps to spur you along. But having someone to be able to direct you and to guide you and give you ideas as well is, yeah, that really that
Yeah, and we're often so self-critical with ADHD as well, so that you don't sometimes see all those little wins where it's like, you know, tiny things that, like, oh, this week, rather than struggling to start for an hour, it took me half an hour, but I started quicker. Like that in your head, especially with ADHD, you're more likely to be like, I still struggle to get started, so I'm still rubbish. But when you have someone on the outside going, well, you've halved the time that you spent procrastinating and struggling with that task initiation, you've halved that in a week. Like, that's incredible. Like, but you wouldn't necessarily see those little wins on your own. And ADHD brains do respond so well to like that kind of positive reinforcement, and we just don't see it sometimes in ourselves. So when you have someone else pointing it out, that's really helpful.
yeah, yeah. I think especially since a lot of us are not used to having positive reinforcement from anyone. It's always the negative and pointing out the negatives and what we can't do and what we're not good at. So having that positivity coming from someone, they might think is actually just a tiny little thing that they're saying. Well, that's really good, but for us, it could be a huge thing.
Mm.
You know, some having some positive feedback. For me, I mean, it can absolutely make my week over something
Yeah.
minor, which would be minor for a lot of people, but for me, it's a huge thing. It can change my mood. It can change my week, just by getting that
Mm.
positive feedback. But because I'm not used to it, well,
Yeah.
from back then. Um, okay, so obviously you got into the coaching and the training and everything. And I know someone said to you about coaching. What made you get into? Was it just that conversation that got you into the coaching, or was there something else that happened?
It was real. So I had it in my head. I wanted to help people with ADHD, and I was so set on that. And I looked at different pathways. And there were some, because I had a degree in psychology, I thought maybe I'll get a doctorate in psychology, and that involved working with a range of different people. People with Alzheimer's, ADHD, all different types of people across like ages and different disabilities, and that's incredible work. But I was so zoned in on just ADHD. I just want to help people with ADHD. That's what I want to do. Like, that's what I've got the passion for. So then when I was on that interview with that participant who was saying, yeah, I've had coaching, it's been life changing, I was like, I've never heard of this, tell me more about coaching. And then I looked into coaching and just started finding actually so many people found it really really helpful, and I just couldn't believe that. I didn't even know it existed. I didn't even know this was a thing. I just obviously hadn't been in the right place to hear about it. And yeah, I think from there I was like, well, that's where I can combine my psychology knowledge of ADHD, my lived experience of ADHD, and then also now learning about how do we coach people with ADHD, how do we get the best for those people. So it was really a no-brainer. Once I knew coaching existed, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I knew that's what I was going to do.
Cool. Yeah, having something that interests us, not just interests us,
Mm.
but well, it sparks a lot of passion rather than
Yeah.
just interest. we kind of, yes, it makes it easier to follow, but we want to follow it. That's just this. There's a lot
Yeah.
of, I don't know what you call it, but there's a lot of sort of motivations somehow coming off the thing
Mm.
you're interested in, just draws you. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to eat. I don't want to sleep. I just want to do this.
And I think that's why I jumped around a lot of different jobs and did a few degrees, because I never found that thing that really just like lit me up and gave me, like, I was so passionate about. I did things that I was good at. I did things I enjoyed a bit, but I never did the thing that got me out of bed on a morning and just was like, I'm excited for today. I'm excited to, and that's the difference with coaching. Like, I'm excited to see my clients. I'm like, I wonder how so and so's got on this week, and I'm excited to, I do like a weekly free training, and I got a little group, and it's completely free to join. But I love doing that every week and just helping people out that sort of have got nowhere else to turn, and they're like, well, I haven't got any support, so it just gives me, I can give a little bit back to people just doing a training every week on a different topic related to ADHD, on what they're struggling with specifically, all these elements of what I do now. And then I train, I do trainings and workshops for businesses and schools. I love doing that and changing those stereotypes and misconceptions. Every element of what I do now I love, and there's never a morning where I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to work, because I love it. And I think that's what I was missing
Yeah,
in every career I was in before.
yeah, yeah. I get that. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do you see with your clients with the coaching? Do you see very similar stories to yours all the time, or
Some, yeah. There's a lot of similarities, but then there's also a lot of differences, I guess. So there's a real range in, some people have been diagnosed for a while, some are newly diagnosed on waiting lists, some have not even started the process of being diagnosed, and they're just like, I just need support. The diagnosis to me is not important, it's the support. And they they might have very similar traits and patterns, but we're not looking at just helping people with a diagnosis. That the whole point is to help the person, so it's all very focused on that individual. So I'm like, I don't care if you've got a diagnosis or not. It's not going to make a difference to me, because all I'm going to do is look at you. We're going to do everything from an ADHD friendly point of view. So if you feel like you've got ADHD and you resonate with a lot of the challenges, everything that we're going to do is going to be really helpful. But ultimately, I'm looking at you as a person, not whether you've got a diagnosis or not, because that's not what's important. It's about supporting the individual. So there's a lot of similarities, and there's certain things that I find most people struggle with, but then there's a lot of differences where some people don't struggle with organization at all. Like, I've got a couple of clients that are incredible at organizing, but they might struggle with emotional regulation more. So there's a lot of differences and a lot of similarities, and everyone's very different in their journey and different ages, different backgrounds. But I think the main core thing is, like, most of them are in a very similar place of, I don't really know what to do
yeah,
next. I know I need to make life easier, but I don't know how. So there's that kind of core that runs through most clients. Everyone's slightly different, but a lot of people are in a very similar mindset where they're just like, I need to make life a bit easier somehow.
you touched on something that's, I think, is really really important, and I wish that society will grasp this concept, and they don't seem to do that. They don't seem to grasp the concept of diagnosis at the moment. But
Mm.
it, when you said that you don't need a diagnosis, okay, and that's right, you don't. Well, you shouldn't need a diagnosis if you're struggling with, let's just say, working memory, right? To the point where it's affecting your marriage, it's affecting your work, your day to day, your life. No one's mentioned ADHD. No one knows what it is. You're not on any waiting list. Okay, you just struggle badly with working memory. You shouldn't need a diagnosis to try and get help. You shouldn't need a diagnosis for people to go, right, this is what you're struggling with. This is what I'm going to try and help you with. Okay, for people to try and help, you don't need anything apart from that person telling you what they're struggling with. because they haven't got a diagnosis, it doesn't take that struggle away from them. Okay, even if they do go for an assessment and they're told they don't have ADHD or they're not autistic or no neurodivergent condition is in there whatsoever, whatever they're struggling with, they are still struggling with. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean they shouldn't get help. People shouldn't help them. They don't need support. So, you know, I think that's the way we need to look at things. It's just, what are people struggling with? Let's help them with a struggle. Solve the diagnosis. Just whatever they're struggling with, let's try and help out. And I think
Yeah.
if that
That's it.
was the attitude, from society, things would be a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if I said to someone, "No, sorry, come back when you're diagnosed," like, that? I couldn't. I couldn't. If that person needs support, and that then I'm going to support that person, and whether they do end up having ADHD or autism or something different or nothing, and they just actually was just struggling with a situation, it doesn't make a difference. I still want to support that person. And actually, I think a lot of ADHD friendly strategies could help everybody. So, like, people in my life that haven't got ADHD, like, I tell them about things that I do, and they're like, "Oh, that would really help me. I'm not ADHD though." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, because it's just a different way of working, and we're so narrow-minded sometimes in the way we think we should do
Yeah,
things." And a lot of the strategies that me and my clients use are just different ways of working that work better for ADHD, but they can also work better for a lot of other people when they're not trying to do things in the way they think they should. Like, just like working with your natural energy and dopamine, like, that can help anyone. It specifically helps people with ADHD, but that can help anyone. So it really doesn't matter if you've got a diagnosis, you can still get the support. Well, from me anyway, that's my ethos. I know it's not the same everywhere, but that's how I think it should be. You're exactly
yeah.
right.
It should be that way. Let's
Mm.
make it that way.
Yeah, on mission.
um, so when it comes to you personally and psychologically, I guess, what do you think understanding yourself has done for you?
I think it's done a few things. I think it's given me the ability and yeah, the ability to do things in the way that works for me unapologetically. So rather than trying to do things in a stereotypically neurotypical way, I do what works for me and I don't apologize for it. I don't say, "Oh, sorry, I've got to do it this way because this," but no, I just do it because that works for me. And that's, I'm not going to apologize about it. Whereas before, I would almost accommodate other people more. I definitely prioritize myself more. I think I've got clearer boundaries on what I need to do for me, what supports me. And I'm also a lot more self accepting when I focus on my wins rather than anything that didn't go to
Yeah,
plan. And if things didn't go to plan, like, I have a better way of kind of just resetting and getting back on track with things. Whereas before, one thing going off track would have just made me spiral, go into complete overwhelm, shut down, give up entirely, like, just literally freeze for days. I have a much better way of just getting back on track with things. So life used to be like very like up down up down. It's now a bit more like that.
yeah,
So it's a lot more steady. Whilst there is definitely ups and downs, it just feels a lot more steady, I'd say. And I think that came from a lot of it came from just the understanding part, really.
yeah. That knowledge, and I've searched for a long time now. Knowledge is key. I mean, even you said about boundaries. That's a very big thing to put in place. Because
Mm.
before we knew anything, for a lot of us, the boundaries weren't really there. We said yes to everything. Um, we didn't know when to say no because be it we were people pleasing or it was just such a exciting thing to do. We just can't say no. Um, but understanding boundaries and why they are there and when you should put them in um, can make a massive difference. Just to keep yourself safe and
Mhm.
obviously to make sure other people understand what you can and can't do, um, and what you're not prepared to do. So they know your
Yeah.
boundaries, not just for you. They know your boundaries as well. Simple things could be big things. Obviously, it can be very simple things. I mean, when I say to my wife that if I'm driving, my working memory is my phone. So everything goes into my phone to remind me of everything.
Mhm.
So if I'm driving, obviously I can't touch my phone, and if she wants me to do something, or someone's asked me to do something, um, it'll be, please remind me when we get to our destination to put it in my phone. So once it's in my phone, now it's in my working memory. You don't remind me, you haven't told me anything. It is as simple as
Mhm.
that. Okay, so there's no coming back to me. I say this at work,
Yeah.
and I say this that family members. Like, if I haven't got my phone with me or on me because I'm driving, and you've told me something that I need to do, if I've asked you to remind me later when I've got my phone so I can put it in, if you don't, now that is on you. Don't come back to me. Okay,
Yeah.
because I've done my bit because I can't put it in my phone because I'm driving a car. Um, so if you can't do yours, then sorry, you can't start blaming me and make me feel bad about not remembering because I've told you, I've got issues with the memory. I need to put it into my phone. I've given you that information because I can't put it into my phone at the time you told me. So yeah, so I'm not going to take it on. Um,
Yeah. It's just that different way of looking at it, isn't it? It's like when I was at uni, I remember like people just call me flaky all the time because sometimes I just say yes to everything, like especially like nights out. Like I felt like I should enjoy nights out, and I did for a time, I think. But I think I felt like I should enjoy nights out. I'd say yes to every night out because I didn't want to say no to people. I definitely was a people pleaser. And then it'd get to the day before or the day of, and I'd panic and be like, I really don't want to go. Like, I really, really, really don't want to go. And I would cancel. And so then I got this reputation as being really flaky. And now I understand like a lot of the reasons I didn't want to go. But I have that boundary now that I'm like, I'll think about it before saying yes. I won't say, yeah, I'll definitely be there. I'll be like, let me have a think about whether I want to come, and then I'll let you know so I don't have to be flaky. And I only say yes to things I genuinely want to do, and I don't apologize if I don't want to do something. I'm quite happy now to say, yeah, go ahead without me. It's all good. It's not for me. And then if I do flake because something gets really overwhelming, and I'm like, I really don't want to go, like it's just really overwhelming me, the thought of going, I don't apologize for it half as much as I
yeah,
used to. I'll apologize for letting them down and things like that, but I definitely won't feel the same level of guilt. And it doesn't happen as often because I haven't overcommitted. I haven't ignored the problem until it's so overwhelming that I'm like, I can't go. Like I have almost like talked it through with myself and like, what's the chance I'm gonna go? Do I really want to go? Is it important to me? I do all those things now, and I just have that boundary, and it makes a big difference in just the way that I see myself as well. So I don't see myself as someone who's flaky. I see myself as someone who doesn't particularly enjoy nights out, but does sometimes. And when I do, I will go, but I have to be in the right headspace with the right people, the right place, and that's
yeah.
fine.
You got to keep yourself safe. You got to
Yeah,
keep yourself safe.
that's it.
And if you need to take time out, you need to be on your own. You shouldn't have to apologize. It's just how it is. And it's not to say that we can't overdo it, and we don't always make the best choices and things like that. And we're not trying to blame anyone else or anything like that at all, and totally dodge any kind of blame because we can't help it. It's not that. It is knowing what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and
Mm,
stop blaming, because we will blame ourselves for everything.
yeah,
Okay, it's always our fault because we don't live up to their expectations, and it's always uh, and having that thing in place, having those boundaries in place, kind of takes some of that away, some of that we shouldn't have. Okay, you shouldn't blame yourself for being a rubbish friend or a lightweight or unsociable if you just don't want to go out. And if
yeah,
because over through the years of doing it that if you go out on a Sunday, your Monday and Tuesday is rubbish at work and you always are getting into trouble or whatever it is. So you're like, right, I'm not going out on a Sunday anymore. You shouldn't apologize for that. You're looking after yourself.
No.
So okay. I mean, it's been really, really great talking with you. I think there's a lot of similarities what you've gone through with a lot of people that I've spoken to as well, especially like the assessment journey. Yeah, it's amazing how even private right to choose NHS, it's still a lot of it is still very, very similar, especially like that the aftercare. But what would you say? What would you say to other people going through this journey, be it right in the middle of the journey or right at the start of the journey? What would you say to others right now?
I think it would be to give yourself some grace that everyone's on a different journey. There's a lot of similarities, but everyone's journey is different. So it's difficult, but try not to compare yourself with other people's
Mm,
journeys and how they are with their ADHD and think, well, I don't have that. Like, maybe my ADHD is not right, or maybe I don't have ADHD. Like, don't compare yourself to other people. Like, if there's one thing I've learned, it's that every single person with ADHD is completely different and has a different combination of strengths, struggles, and patterns. So don't compare yourself to other people, and also give yourself grace to not figure it all out at once, to for things not to be perfect all the time and things not to work, and that's okay. And give yourself grace for the things that you struggle with, and beat yourself up a little bit less.
yeah, yeah, very, very true.
Yeah.
Good words, good words. And it is very true that we're all very, very different and you shouldn't compare. It's easy to compare. I mean, going back to beginning of my journey, having this conversation with you where before medication, and medication does help me to read, before that, I've never read a book. No point, because I can't remember after a line, after a few words, what I've just read. And then hearing that you going through university and you got degrees and like how, not that you haven't got it. It's like, well, obviously I've got something different because
Mm-hmm.
if you've got ADHD, you should be able to do that. And it's very easy for me to go down that sort of line, but I don't now, and that's all okay because I've got boundaries, I've got understanding, I've got a bit more lived experience with putting things into place and knowledge, and that it does take time. So yeah, you just don't compare, don't compare, um, because that can be a painful process if you keep doing that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Caitlin, for coming on and sharing your story. But before we go though, can you just give us the listeners an idea of where they can find you on social media if they want to just follow you in your journey, or they want
Mm-hmm.
coaching? Where can they find you?
Almost everywhere. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'll give you all the links so
Cool.
that they can find me real simple. And I've got a free, completely free private community where I do weekly trainings on different topics. So quite, some short 20-minute trainings, easy to sort of consume. All the replays are there as well. So if you're kind of coming in and you want a few things to kind of watch, and you're like, oh, I'm struggling mainly with task initiation or emotional regulation, that you can watch all the old ones in there as well. So I'll give you the link for um, that community directly, so you can just hop straight in there.
Brilliant.
But apart from that, Instagram I think is ADHD coach _ Caitlin. Facebook, LinkedIn, Caitlin Whitmore. I don't think there's too many Caitlin Whitmores out there, so you should be able to find me. Or just my website, you can get in touch. All my links are on there as well. So I'll give you all the links, Darren, so you've got those.
Brilliant. And I'll put them on the podcast so everyone can just click on it and find out all about you and all about the service that you offer and all the good things that you're doing. Um, Guys, thanks for listening. As always, be good, be kind, and remember, you're not alone. Thank you.